Welcome to this series of presentation on the replenishment capabilities of ArtsMagna. ArtsMagna has got several ways of accomplish replenishment, and we will try to demonstrate most of them in a series of presentations. So to start, we're going to go into our stock and into our inventory, and we're going to monitor a group of products. So what we'll do is we'll select product starting with code X. Now in the practice database, this would be importing equipment. If we sort them by putting at the top the one with the highest availability, and we select the group with 10 and we isolate it with the show subset. First of all, actually, let's isolate some items that we want to monitor. So what we'll do is we'll select out of our list a few of them. So we'll pick up this one, for example, and we do star, star, star. This is just for simplicity of this presentation. This is not a required step. It's just in order to be able to monitor in an easier way the items that we're just checking at the moment. So then we will look at this one, star, 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 and we will also look at the 5094, which is here, star, star, star. Okay, so we're really monitoring the 15081, the 15100, and the 15094. Let's say that we want to set the minimum reorder to all of this group of that have got quantity 10. We could go in individually and say, okay, we want to set a minimum reorder quantity of 8, so we want to have at least 8 in stock at all times. But this will only have set it to this one item in particular. So if I go back into another one, that obviously doesn't have it. An easier way to accomplish this is we can select from the list with shift to the last one. We will take them all, or we can do first and then with the control down we can do a selection of any one that we are interested in, or control A will select them all because we want to set to all. And then in the utilities features we can select modify, and we can say yes, we want to set the reorder flag to yes, and we want to have a minimum quantity to 8. Now this would have applied that to all of this. So if we go into any one now, we have the flag set to yes and the quantity to 8. At this point we can go now and simulate a sale of a few items, and what I want to do is I'll just go into the USM basically, and so that we reduce the quantities, and then we can see what happens once we go and generate a replenishment. So we say new record, F1, select the operator, and select a normal sale. So we scan in the items that we want to sell, and manually we'll override the quantity by adding a few more quantities in. So we simulate 6 of these, and we simulate 4 of these, and let's say that we want to sell 5 of these. At this point we finalize by going with F12 key to tender, and we select Visa as a type of payment, and we end the transaction. Receipt is printed. If we now go out of the USM and we go into our stock, inventory, and search for item with X, we will see straight away that our monitored items quantities has changed from 10 to the new quantities based on what the sold items are. At this point we are ready to start basically demonstrating the two major way of doing the replenishment. The first one would be straight on sales level. So we can go into the end of day, and from the end of day we've got the sales report. If we pick up the sales by brand report, for example, and we say that we want to report on today's sales from this branch only, for example, so we really don't need to touch much more, and we do green tick. We don't even need to print the report. We just say cancel to the printing of the report, and the system asks us if we want to generate a sales order based on the sold item within the period that we've selected, the filters of supplier, category, etc., and the branches in particular. So we can do it by branch, by states, by group, etc. So if we say okay, we do want to generate this, he asks us to choose a method, And for this presentation we choose stock. And multi or single, what this means is that if the items you've sold belong to different suppliers, it will generate either a single order based on all the items sold, or it will do multiple by suppliers. For the in this case, we'll just do single, because realistically we will just want to see all the items together. Also, they do belong to the same supplier, so even if we select multi, we would end up with the same exact record. So we do single, and we can. That's it. That has generated the replenishment record. If we now leave the end of day module, the reporting, we go into activities and we go into replenishment, we will find that the last record just created from the end of day module, there it is there. And if we go inside, we can see the items that we've just sold based on the sold level. So the system is proposing us to order basically these items, is proposing us to order 6, 4 and 5 based on what we've sold. This column here, the available, is actually showing what we have available right now. So because we tend to start with, if we've sold 6, we've got 4 left, we've sold 4, we've got 6 left, we've sold 5, we've got 5 left. Now, this available column as well, if you have multiple branches, can change, and you can display here, you can change here which branch you display. Yes, so we can see that in laybys we've got none available at the moment. As well as displaying laybys, we could display any available branches, stock, so second branch, third branch, fourth branch, and make decision. Now we will go into the multi-branch replenishment later on in another set of presentation, where you can see specifically how this is handled with the display of all the multiple branches into the one screen. At this point we can edit the quantity if we want to and adjust them. So let's say even if we've sold 6, we could decide to buy 5 or 4 or 3, etc. Or if we're happy with the way this is, we can simply generate the supplier order by clicking this button. You will notice that at the moment in here we've got an expected time of arrival. Now that time can be set here, so we can say, okay, we want this item to be delivered by, it's 9th of December today, we want them by the 15th of December, 15th of the 12th of the 5th, and we can then also say that this is there is a contingency to delivery, so it means that if they're not here by the 20th of the 12th of the 5th, we just don't want these items anymore. At this point we can also set the branch that we want this item to be sent to, if we wanted to a specific branch. Again, this is a multiple branch operation. And if we are happy, we just simply click this button now, and the system asks us what type of purchase order do we want to generate. Do we want to generate a new one, or do we want to add to an existing one? So if there is already a purchase order open for this particular supplier, or for the various suppliers that these items belong to, it will add to the existing one, or if you do create new ones, it will create a new purchase order per supplier based on the selection. So we do create a new one, and you can see now here that because the supplier is the same, he's only created a purchase order number 62, dated 9th of the 12th, and they are the quantity that have been placed into the purchase order. At this point we can leave the replenishment module, and if we go into purchase orders, we will see that there is this purchase order already in here. There it is, for the supplier Queen Marine, and if we go inside, we see all the items that we've ordered. They are displayed inside here, and if we go, we can also print this and, for example, generate a PDF of this. So we go to PDF, OK, print preview, OK. So that's the purchase order there. If we had selected a branch, it would tell us which branch to ship it to. There would be the items, the quantity that we need, and ready to go. So if we say print, and we save it on the desktop as PO62, save. And now that file, PDF, that we've got on the desktop can be simply attached to an email at any point in time. As simple as that. So we've just seen a replenishment based on sales. Now we will look at the replenishment based on the minimum reorder quantity. So if instead of the sales we wanted to base on our minimum reorder quantity, we would go into activities and we would go straight to replenishment. So before we went into end of day, run the report, generated the replenishment which we found in here. This time instead we go directly into replenishment and we just say add, create a new record, and at this point we go to the second tab in here, where we can then say, put a supplier in, for example. You see that we've got a tag, a flag at the top here that says sales only, property quantity, reorder only. So if we've got the flag set to reorder only, which is the default, when we go to supplier and we say Queen, it tells us, would you like to populate this replenishment based on the minimum reorder quantity set for all the items of this supplier? If we say add items, we will see that what it's telling us is that basically they are all the items that we're monitoring. They would be the one that originally had 10 quantity. They would be the new quantity available based on the sales of those 1, 2, 3 items that we did. And obviously the ones where we've got quantity 10, because the minimum reorder quantity was set to 8, we are actually 2 in front at the moment. So we can really simply delete this item if we wanted to with F3 and just leave the ones that are positive. Okay, and so this is the net result of what he's asking us now, which is basically telling us that the order quantity based on the minimum order quantity should be 2, 3, and 4, which is different from the earlier case, obviously, because he was ordering straight on sales. Now he's ordering straight on filling up the quantities and transforming the available from what it is now to 8, which was the minimum quantity set. So 6 plus 2 would give us 8, 5 plus 3 would give us 8, 4 plus 4 would give us 8. Again, we can edit the quantities, change them from 2 to 3, from 2 to 1, eliminate totally this one, we don't want to order it, whatever. We would see the availability here at the other branches if we had any, and then we could decide from the multi-branch transfer to, instead of reordering them from a supplier, to shift them from one of our existing branches. Once we are happy, if that's 2, 3, and 4 is what we actually want, then we can go back to the main screen, and just as we did before, simply create a supplier order, create a new one, and that's number 63 now for quantity 2, 3, 4. The process of before repeats itself, so we exit from here. Okay, we need to set a client, so we say that's fine, and we now go to purchase order, and if we go down in purchase order, we've got the 62 that we generated before, and the 63, which is the new one for the new quantity. Again, we go in, we can see the items 2, 3, and 4, and again, we can print the document here. This time I'm just simply going to do a print preview. I'm not going to generate a PDF. There they are there with the new quantity, different from before. A lot more could have been said about the replenishment screen that we were in, where we generated this replenishment based on the minimum reorder quantity. In fact, we can do it by supplier, we can do it by brand, we could do it by category. We can also change the information that we visualize here, and we can use this screen to report sales, for example, and to report based on quantities, or available or quantity sold, discount value, discount given at the point of sale, gross profit. All of these parameters will change in here, will fill in and give us basically information that then will be used, and we can display quantity, cost or prices, which can be very handy to manage a replacement based on the items that are giving us more profit, the items that we have to discount the most in order to sell, etc. So, but there will be another presentation specifically to demonstrate this functionality. What instead I would like to do now is just simply show you to finalize the order process, what happens when the merchandise arrives from the supplier. So when the invoice arrives with the product that we obviously ordered the product to the supplier, let's assume that we ordered order number 62, which was the first one, based on sale, which will bring us all the quantities back to 10. So if we go now into the 62, when the 62 will arrive with the invoice, and let's assume that in this case, for simplicity, it arrives with all the same value. You can see that the order quantity is set to 6 and the shipped is set to 0. There is a button in here which allows us to receive the outstanding quantity. So we simply go into the order, click this button. Would you like to receive all back order quantities? Yes, okay. Now this is all set for us automatically for 4, 5, 5, etc. And what this does is this allows you to basically very simply receive the quantity, put the details of the invoice number. This was an order, now it becomes an invoice. It might be invoice 123 of Queen Marine of that date, or we can make it 127 just in case 123 was already used within this financial year. Set the amount to be the same, 1562. Add the information about the accounting if we want to run the accounting as well, and GST, and the value stays at that, and then we just simply green tick. Now that order is being received, has been transformed into an invoice, the quantity would have been now set in stock, and we are ready to post the order. So if we now go back into our stock inventory and we research under code X, we will see now that these items have gone back to 10. There they are. And obviously if we go into any of these items and we go to the transactions history, we can see that the item obviously was sold in a sale for quantity of 4. We originally had 10. We then received, so we had originally 10, we sold 4, and then we reorder another 4. This extra record in here, that's the 063, which realistically we shouldn't have had, and I've just simply added in because of demonstrating within the one demonstration the two different way of generating the purchase order. Very last aspect that I'd like to touch to conclude this demonstration. I can already hear some of you asking, what if, I mean, in a lot of cases the order might not be fulfilled totally, so it might be a partial shipment, so how do we handle that? In that case, we would have gone into the purchase order, we would have selected the order number 63, or actually it was the 62 that now is not showing anymore. So if we go like that, show all orders non-posted, go into the 62, and what we would have done is we would have probably still have received the total and then adjusted. So let's say that this one, instead of 6, they would have shipped us 5. So order 6 shipped 5. And this one, instead of 4, they would have shipped us 2. And this one, let's say we got them all. So at that point, when obviously this, in that case, will not balance perfectly, but that's fine, that's because of how we've done it. 1210 will now be the new value, it would be 1100 here, okay, and the invoice, that was the same invoice that they shipped them with, so we green tick, and at that point, that invoice is closed, and the system allows us now to select that, and in the utilities here, we've got a functionality which is called clone back orders into a new order. What this will do is, it will now regenerate for us a new order, a new PO, outstanding for the outstanding quantities which were not shipped into the order. So if we say OK, and if we go out and we go back into purchase order, we will now have a new one down here, which is the 64, there it is. And if we go inside the 64, we will see that there is 1 of this item and 2 of this item which are still to be received. And when we receive the next one, we can keep going with this obviously until the order is totally fulfilled.